No, I'm always happy to be wrong when it's a way that is very beneficial to the series. I didn't think we were going to get straight numbered ranks for the Demon Lords, but we have a direct, 1-to-1 hierarchy ranking, which I think is pretty cool. It makes it very direct of where we're going to be able to estimate who's going to be fighting who is going to be in a fight, or like, oh, say, this guy at the very end, I think it's like Malroku, like he's going to get destroyed if he fights anybody that is like Kiyoshi and adjacent. So any of the cross paladin people, this guy's gonna get completely demolished by. But say somebody like I don't want it to be Hitsugi. I would, but like at the same time, because Hitsugi, I would love for Hitsugi to fight Kurose Sada, just because it was his brother that was the one that crashed the graduation in I was gonna say episode in chapter 2. So it'd be really cool and telling to show his sign of strength is he beat someone stronger than that. But at the same time, I feel like it would make sense for Kiyoshi to fight him and maybe actually see what Sada could have done, because it would make sense if Sada, both of the Sadas, I guess, had the same ability, but just the younger brother, because he's a higher ranked, he's gonna be able to use it at a stronger degree. So you just assume, whatever he does, Sada can do. Older Sada can do weaker. I can't remember if we got a name for him besides just Sada, because I would assume at that point Sada is the last name. But as the older brother, it would make sense why he would go by specifically the last name, because he'd be the inheritor of the family name. I guess we don't know full demon cultural practices, but they seem pretty close. But this chapter showed a lot on just the side of the demons, which I was not expecting. I figured we were going to get right into the fights with them. Again, that's another thing that I was wrong about that I'm very happy to see, because we see just more sides of these guys than I was anticipating. And the one that I am most hyped about is the second Demon Lord. I really like his design, Mukorojima. And I'm very happy because the ranks, I was wondering if the ranks were going to be similar to the demons, because they go, was it low, mid, high, and top level demons? So I was thinking, well, are Demon Lords just going to be that, but they have Demon Lord next to it? But it seems like either top level, it's either Demon Lord is a rank, but it's just really small, so it's easy just to give direct rank or direct number, or they're top level demons, but they are so strong they're in like a subclass that you have to earn like a title for, that also directly operates in power. But regardless of which, like this guy, because we know he's second Demon Lord, and Azudaroth is a great Demon Lord. So first Demon Lord is not here, but there's two things that just directly connect. Obviously, there's this giant arm, but when they're saying that Azudaroth isn't, it's going to take him some time to manifest, that means that it makes direct sense that, okay, well, if somebody is between these guys and Azudaroth, then only be able to have his arm right now, that must be the first Demon Lord, whoever that giant is when he comes out. But we get a little bit of getting into each of these guys, and the two of them that I'd say the least intrigued on are the 13th ranked Demon Lord and the 4th Demon Lord. Because, the 13th one, he just looks like generic brute. He's just supposed to be like, I'm the powerful like brawler guy, I'm gonna go in and get and lose relatively soon. He'll probably be Hitsugi's opponent if it is in Sada, but I don't know, maybe like the opening fight, and he'll fight the younger brother later on. But for the other one is Gorgon Meteor Maid. I know some people are gonna really like her design. I'm personally not a fan. My cat is being extra, but we'll see how she is. I don't know. I think that she just looks okay. She just has this open kind of punk coat thing going on. She's got her snake hair, which is cool. But the other girl, I don't know what this is supposed to entirely, but like an Iron Maiden kind of thing dress. And it's just really, really neat to look at. I like her design a lot. And she's mad because Azudaroth has interest in Kiyoshi and saying she wants to kill Kiyoshi and then kill herself, but that she won't die that way. So she's really just beside herself over everything, which again is pretty funny to me. And we get confirmation in this chapter from the third Demon Lord, Kurose Sada, that his brother is the weakest out of the Demon Lords, except for Malroku, who says that he's actually weaker. So that would mean that Sada should be 12th, We don't know exactly where Mato it was or Jack Joe, but you can just kind of like put them around. Maybe Jack Joe being number 7, just I think would make sense. Just put him as like a really solid in the middle area, right around the good number where the good numbers start. And then Mato, maybe he's like 10th or 9th or something. There's still areas where we can bring some guys in where they can just be a couple surprise enemies. Maybe they'll arrive in the second wave, because, or I guess maybe it won't be a second wave, because I would well, no, because I would assume that there's going to be tiers. Excuse me. My dog is trying to like wrestle with my cat in the middle of this. They were all quiet and nice until I decided to start recording, and then suddenly they all want to make noise. There's just a direct delving into them and getting to know a little bit of their characters. Like, I really like how Mukorojima is seemingly this crazy scientist. Like, he just looks delighted to be here. He's all happy to see all the different exorcists going on. And he does this whole bit where he just announces to everyone that he's willing to pay in high amount for 3 specific people, that being Sakaki, Kyoka, and Tsurugi. And again, I like this dude that he comes out already. He's just got all this energy and he's really goofy, but he is a crazy guy at the same time. And I know his fight's going to be really cool. Out of them, I want him to fight Sakaki, because I would love to have something like a demon scientist against a gambler, and it's just these guys pulling out these weird techniques back to back, bouncing off each other. I think that would be really cool. But in the chapter, we see a little bit as well of a direct display of power levels, like seeing where characters are at. Because like I said, they're talking about Mato. Not Mato, about Sada. Sada was an interesting character in hindsight when you compare areas of strength, because it showed that even the top, second graduate at that era and all the people around him couldn't even fight this guy who Kiyoshi completely destroyed, and who was the second weakest out of all of the demon lords. So that just again shows that even though out of the ranks and he's near the bottom, he's still stronger than most of these cases of people. And this guy's weaker than him, and he goes out against somebody who directly just beats a top level demon with very little effort, just blocks his attack and then smashes him. But he's like getting damaged even from just going into straight defense against a direct, one punch from Maroku. So that just says like, okay, well, there's a really nice barrier of where we're seeing right now in strength that I think is needed in the verse, just because we see a lot of characters who are high up, and because I got to give the potential criticism, if it gets to it, that I gave Black Clover, because I didn't like that we started with a high level devil. I don't want to get corrected on that one. Devil in the verse, and then went pretty much right after that went right into Supreme. So all of the ones that were lower just seemed almost non-existent. We know they exist, but they don't have a real footprint on the verse, because we don't even have any named members that are decent with them. Say like in this, if we see like a mid or high level demon that comes in and has say just a mid-level demon sneaks by, has a whole fight with Akari, and it's just it's just in a situation where this one is able to get by, nobody else is around, Akari is in a completely a low chance but bad situation, and she's able to get a fight. It's like, okay, we now know also where these spots are at. We see a character that is much too low to fight in a lot of the relative scenarios of the bigger characters that are going to be fighting the demon lords and whatnot. Things like that I really like, because it shows a level of the verse, and then it shows also some shows parts of progression, and we're seeing a good amount of that right now. So I'll kind of just like shut up on that matter, because it's like, yeah, we just kind of have to wait and see like things play out. But there's, like I said, as long as we see some of those spots later on, and we've seen some of the demons again earlier in the story, but I would love to see just a direct fight for somebody from somebody that just says, okay, well, this character who we know is not very big is going to be in a fight where still they get a spotlight, and it's not just, oh yeah, they did this thing off screen. Because you want characters to like when characters gain progress, you want it to be earned. And it's the difference, but it doesn't have to always be like, yeah, we have everything always a chapter for everything. You have stuff set up, have time skips, have stuff that's like, a character learns something, another character. But you always want to have characters when they have stepstones and places of value in their character progression through the story. You always want it to be, again, it feel like an earned bit and not just, oh yeah, the author's like, oh, I just didn't want this character to have nothing, so I just gave them this, whatever this MacGuffin was, a new power, a new thing that just says, yeah, we want you to have a chapter where you fight. You don't want to get to that point. It makes characters feel more hollow. And I don't have that worry at all of the series, to be honest. I've mentioned before, Kiyoshi is really, really good with characters. And I mean, this chapter, like, it showed that even the villains are going to be getting a lot of direct character exposition, which I like a lot. And even showing further than that, where I'm like hyping up the villains and I'm talking about just the general kind of layout of what we're seeing in the chapter and the value that it is for the verse. Because there's like a level, it's like when you talk about power levels that people check out because they immediately think of like people arguing, go, whose character is going to fight what? I don't think that's necessarily the case, because there's when it comes to a series like this where combat and action and relatively the levels of characters are important to understand in the story, you want consistency for that, because it keeps the story feeling fluid and it not feel like it's just going to be, all over the place and feel cluttered. You don't want that. And the verse has done pretty well so far about that. Like I've mentioned before, I really have a strong vibe on a lot of the new series that are running right now. Kiyoshi being the one that is at the top of my list. I really like it. And this chapter reinforcing that. And then at the end, it's like my favorite characters. It's hard to say in full because the series is still relatively young. And we only have a handful of character backstory and a handful of characters besides Kiyoshi that have their own points that of focus. Like we have some for Sakaki now, we have some for Tsurugi, we have bits for Akari. We're gonna get some for Jackjo and Nihon. I'm looking forward to that a lot. But for seemingly, at the end of the chapter and seemingly what we're gonna be getting next chapter is Tsurugi pulling up and just having his own badass moment to get into this fight where he pulls out, I would assume, a more serious technique than what he showed before. Maybe it's just a range technique, but at the same time, I imagine him using both arms for it. It would be at a higher class than what we saw before. But at the same time, it's like the name doesn't have like the level of seriousness. But again, that could just be whatever he decided to name it. But he pulls out a double-handed Blade Runner technique drawing pull, and he's got like this almost lightsaber style energy sword. It looks so badass. And I wonder if when he does it, he goes for the double swing, or if it's an effect. Like every time he swings, there's like, say you swung a sword, there would be an automatic reversed angle, like second swipe that just comes with it. So you're essentially swinging once, but getting two slices out of it. But he slices the hand. He does two cuts right through the arm and chops all the fingers. The only one of the Demon Lords that he hits is Mukorojima, but he's fine. He doesn't seem bothered by it at all. He's just going to regenerate. The rest of them dodged. I imagine that just tells you, directly that Mukorojima doesn't care. Like, this isn't damage that he was threatened by. And same thing with the big demon arm that's coming out, just regenerating an arm. I mean, that's not going to be a problem. None of the other ones were hit. I would say, looking at them, though, there's at least telling about their abilities of combat, because the one, what was his name pronounced? Baku Yaraku? Yeah, he looks like he easily dodged it. When you look at each member of their group and how they're posed at the end of the panel, it looks like, say, like Kurose just did like a jump kind of dodge where he just did he noticed it wasn't like a crazy thing, but he just dodged out of the way. I'm trying to remember all their names. These are all new names, so I just want to make sure I get them right. Gorgon just looks like she did like a kind of like a side swipe shoulder dodge. Hydraco. It just looks like maybe like a jump dodge or just something like that. But Baku Yaraku, it just looks like he just hopped over both, like, or just like danced around both. It doesn't look like he bothered him. I'm very intrigued by his character. It's funny because there's another demon group showing up in the same number right now. It's like you had over with Fairy Tail on 100 Years Quest. You have the Erasion sect showing up, and they have like you look at their group and it's okay, you can kind of tell who the runners are, who the bigger, more important members are going to be. And there's a similar character that just has in terms of vibes of like the sleeper monster, and that's what Baku Iraku feels like to me. I don't know, I could be wrong on that, and maybe it'll be somebody else. It'll be like one of the lower ranks that just hasn't shown up. But to me, I just want to put my time in it because his design just tells me that he's going to be important. Because say like he's the Nihon Jack Joe fight, and they have a really cool, like maybe like a 2-3 even chapter 1v1 fight. That'd be really cool. And just like again, his design, he's got like just a big black, well, he's undercoat, big black undercoat, this facial shroud that has like these 6-sided weird skull scowl. Horns are pretty standard, just like these ringed, curved upward. A pitchfork, like again, like a classic devil. I really want to know about him too, because he doesn't really talk that much. He seems to be the like one of the more quiet members in the chapter. So I want to see who he fights, because out of all of them, I mean, he's not even like crazily ranked. He's 5th. And it wouldn't surprise me if you had something like, oh, well, the 6th, like something like Hydraco, or like maybe whenever we get the 7th, they're actually stronger, but in shorter period. Like, say, like a character had an ability where it's like, oh, yeah, I'm actually stronger when I activate this for 2 minutes in the 5th rank. So I'm kind of like 4.5. But at the same time, afterwards, I pretty much lose. It's just some suicide move, borderline, so that they don't count. I don't know. At the moment, these guys are all, like I said, really intriguing. I'm happy to win the fact that the one that I had the most interested turned out to be the highest ranked out of them and seemingly going to be the most entertaining. I mean, come on, the guy pulls out a megaphone and starts yelling and offering prizes to bring him 3 people as sacrifices, well, as experiments and whatnot. My cat's trying to eat a wrapper right now. Excuse me. But yeah, this was just a flex by Tsurugi at the end of the chapter, this long distance double slice. So we're going to be getting the fight spread out with these dudes probably in the next chapter. I would anticipate next chapter, though, will be more specifically of a Tsurugi display, or maybe like if it's not going to be Tsurugi specifically, like my hopes that it would be I would hope it opens with Tsurugi, but it happens to be like once the other characters start, like say like the Demon Lords start to become clear that Tsurugi can't 1v6 these dudes, well I guess 1v5, assuming the arm isn't going to come after him, that you're going to have Kiyoshi, Sakaki, Kyoka, and all them start showing up, and then have these guys divvied out of who's going to be fighting who, just because I would want us to get to the fights, but I would love to see just a moment where, like a moment in the chapter for everyone where each of the Demon Lords are, they do one thing, they see it, just a name of one of their attacks, so you understand a basic, okay, I get the opening gesture of what this guy's abilities and stuff is going to be. And same thing with we have everyone except Kyoka, I guess, so just like she'll probably be the one to save, but maybe a new technique, maybe Sakaki pulls out a new role. Maybe Kiyoshi decides to do something new with his abilities, or he ends up, well, I feel like Kiyoshi could be the last one, just because he'll either be first or last, actually. I think that makes sense as the main character, because he's either going to be a spot where it's like we're going to focus on the other characters because you've seen Kiyoshi so much, or we're going to get Kiyoshi right out of the way and then get him into maybe some form of distraction plot. Maybe, it'd be really cool, we get the other Demon Lords in a point where it's like Kiyoshi does something to affect the whole, but it's going to, at the phrasing, but it's going to just maybe it's going to slow down a Zudaroth's summons. It's like just like a buy time thing. I don't know. I don't want anyone to do anything that's risky like that. That's just going to take them out of commission, because I would anticipate everyone is going to be needed, and the fights right now are all looking... So, like, they're all looking really crispy. I can't wait to get this. This is such a classic shonen set up right now for battles that I'm all. It's classic style that I'm hyped about, and this is like classic style, doing classic style at its most. And this is one of the values I think that Kiyoshi has really brought to the table that I think Jump needed, because it was like we had it with, in my opinion, we had it with Mashal and we had it with Black Clover. Mashal ended, Black Clover got moved to Giga, and besides One Piece, there wasn't a lot of like the feeling of like classic shonen style, and this just comes out to it, because I would say like Kagurabachi doesn't have that vibe. It has its own kind of alternative vibe for something kind of like Bleach, but Kiyoshi just it feels like, again, it's a manga that came out in 2005, and I love it. So other than that, I'll talk to you guys later, and we'll talk about it next one.